Thank you so very much for coming for my book launch, No Man's Land. It took 2 years to put this together. I would like to take the opportunity of thanking my editor, John McCary, my layout person, Kiran Ahmed, that spent 2 years in bringing this together. I also have to thank the contributors and the brief I gave them was, please write whatever you'd like upon me. There are no parameters either in length or in subject on my trajectory. Please go ahead and say whatever you'd like. I treated it like a party. Everybody's invited and you can do whatever you want in my party. One of the contributors, I'm happy, is sitting right next to me, H.M Naqvi. He's someone I absolutely admire. I remember I read his first novel, Homeboy. I finished it in Paris. And when I ended the book, I started crying. And I had to give him a call and I said, oh my God, I just read the book. It really affected me. And then I read his second book, Adventures of Cossack. I may not be getting the title exactly right, but it was incredible. Usually, when things are written about my part of the world, they're written for a Western audience. But his books feel like they're written for me, for people within the country. So I'm really grateful to him. Yes, please, an applause for H.M Naqvi. And he's going to read an excerpt from his essay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Amin Gulgee demands attention. When he enters, his laughter, a throaty staccato, fills the room. When he speaks energetically, emphatically, gesticulating with lanky limbs, often waving a lit cigarette. He will make his point whether you like it or not. He has been this way since I've known him, for about 2 decades, larger than life. Amin's sculptures are dramatic, his visual vocabulary distinctive. You can never mistake his work for somebody else's. I remember attending his Char Bagh exhibition at his gallery in 2003, possibly my first, to behold massive, graven, geometric, copper, bronze, and steel structures, feats of technical rigor, feats of stamina, and conceptual depth. In recent memory, I remember attending a preview of Seven, also at his gallery, an exhibition that featured large copper frames, sometimes hung vertically like scrolls, sometimes standing up like doors, perforated by calligraphy in arabesque configurations. When Seven traveled to Rome in 2018, the structures cast shadows in the courtyard of the Galleria d'Arte Moderna that changed through the course of the day, inviting light, inviting interpretation. The conceptual framework that informs Amin's material oeuvre has been, in a way, consistent throughout his practice. An engagement with Islamic intellectual discourse and aesthetics, the Persianate concept of Char Bagh, for instance, is derived from the 4 gardens of paradise mentioned in the Quran in chapter 55, verses 46 and 62. And for him who fears to stand before his Lord are 2 gardens, and beside them are 2 other gardens. In Seven, Amin draws from the dramatic verse in the Holy Book in which the angel Jibrail descends from the heavens upon the Prophet, famously ensconced in the darkness of Ghar-e Hira. The angel demands of the Prophet, read in the name of the Lord. The Prophet initially understandably responds with bewilderment. But the angel persists. God is intent on teaching man that which he does not know. is such a powerful verse, such a compelling point of departure. Would you agree?
Yes.
What is it about this Quranic anecdote that compelled this sort of work?
Well, what I do in my work is my father was a great calligrapher. And soon, right after our chit chat, my dad's museum will be open. I don't claim to be a calligrapher. What I do in my trajectory is I use one line, like the specific one you mentioned from the Iqra ayat in Naqshi, and I'll repeat the same line and the same script again and again and again and again. In fact, most of the sculptures you see around with cursive writing has that exact same line. And now you can't read anything. So when I travel and people say, what is written? I say, nothing is written. But the essence for me remains that same line.
I am doing an impressionistic reading from my essay, so I will continue with another trope. Annie Dillard tells the story of a fellow writer who was asked by a student, "Do you think I could be a writer?" "Well," the writer said, do you like sentences?" The student is surprised by the question, but Dillard knows exactly what was meant. He was being told, she explained, that if he likes sentences, he could begin. And she remembers a similar conversation with a painter friend. I asked him how he came to be a painter. He said, "I like the smell of paint." The point made implicitly is that you don't begin with a grand conception. You begin with a feel for the nitty-gritty material of the medium. Paint in one case, sentences on the other. Amin, do you enjoy the smell of copper smelting in the morning?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love the smell of copper. In fact, I've got issues with personal hygiene. So when I was younger, I don't do this anymore, I wouldn't take a shower for a week after I was working in the workshop. And you know, when you'd wake up in the morning, you could smell because you're covered in copper dust and you could smell it on your body. It was delicious.
So, in this dialectic, from these grand, from discourse, from monotheistic discourse, to the nitty-gritty material, that's quite a spectrum.
Yes. I mean, again, like you said, in the process, you don't really have an idea, right, Hussein? When you begin, you're a writer, and I'm sure the spirits must speak to you. The characters speak to you. They tell you their tale, their stories. You're just a conduit to put it onto paper. It's the same thing for us stupid object makers. We try to listen to the spirits.
Ladies and gentlemen, Amin demands attention. When you witness Amin's performance pieces, you cannot help but look. You cannot look away. I remember strolling onto the grounds of the Frere Hall one night in 2014 on the occasion of the Sindh Art Festival, curated by Adila Suleiman and Samira Raja. Standing amongst others, gawking at Amin and his collaborator, Jushinder. conduct Paradise Lost, a coordinated pantomime within a large steel scaffolding. I remember copper leaves twisting on strings, a bed of marigolds, torches alight. I remember at some juncture the scaffolding burning down. It was dramatic, unsettling, quite literally, a house on fire. What the hell was that about?
Yes, in my trajectory, I do performance works. And I try to include objects within my performance work that I've created. The whole idea is that the objects will determine how one moves. The objects will have an energy, or almost a dictatorial energy to themselves. These are not props. These are things to become enmeshed with. So there's a transformation that happens when you put on the helmet. Paradise Lost was a story. Again, these are all sort of stories. They're ephemeral stories. And what's wonderful about performances, it's ephemeral. It's there and it's gone. It's a moment.
The topography of performance art in Pakistan, a mode of art practice that emerged from American counterculture in the 1960s. It is experimental, ephemeral, defies commodification, defies the market. You cannot buy it, possess it, hang it on the wall to match your drapes. In the Dreamscape catalogue, Zarmine invokes the work of critics including Walter Benjamin, Claire Bishop, Jacques Rancière, a cohort I am not familiar with, but Rancière's observation about the need for performance art makes eminent sense to me. A theater where spectators will be participants instead of being passive viewers. This is what I understand, as is often the case with Amin's performance art extravaganzas. The distance between artist and audience becomes a hair's breadth. Everybody is sucked into the rabbit hole. Everybody becomes part of the spectacle. Just like right now. So, is there a sort of cogency, a coherence in your material pieces and your performance art? Does there need to be a coherence or a cogency? Is it different facets of, how would you characterize these different facets of your practice?
Schizophrenia, yet not. And everything for me is interconnected. There are no separations for me between my work, my life. Everything is interconnected. Like I said before, I use objects for my performance works. And Hussein, I did these collaborative performances as well. I did one at Canvas Gallery, I did one in Chicago, and where you work with 18 other people or 17 other people, you bring them into your narrative. It's a kind of seduction. If they're artists, you're like, I want to see every work that you've done. Maybe there's something that'll connect, and it does. And you bring them into your world. So it's true for them and true for you. And these stories have a way of developing themselves, these narratives, just like yours. Like I admire writers more than I admire anyone else. Sorry, lawyers, doctors, whoever, But writers are the most incredible people on this planet, I think. And so, perhaps, these are my stories, and they have a way of developing themselves. There's an energy whenever you begin one of these collaborations. They lead you. And there's a big difference between the sculpture and the performance. I'm a control freak. Like you see that cube, right? Now that's made and it's brought forth when it's done. And if it's not done, it goes into my storage areas. So everything is private. Only my 3 guys who are right at the back over there, we go through the process. It's extremely private. And a lot of times it doesn't work out. No problem. With performances, I'm going outside my comfort zone. There you have to relinquish control because there's an energy. It's like a chemical reaction. You can't predict how it will go, where it will go, how it will develop. And there's a certain amount of letting it go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Amin demands attention. Curated by Amin, KB17, Karachi's inaugural Biennale could not be ignored by the denizens of the city. A milestone in the cultural life of the city, the Herculean logistical feat brought the works of some 182 artists to a dozen venues stretching from the old city to the suburbs. Walking into the stately 150-year-old Narayan Jagannath Vadaya Government Higher Secondary School building on Bandar Road, on the inaugural night, ambling from room to room, floor to floor, I was struck by the quality and the quantity of the work. Struck like everybody else. It was chock-a-block. I wondered, where next? Over the course of the next fortnight, I made my way to nearly every site, sometimes brushing shoulders with school children, sometimes with artists and critics from abroad, sometimes by car, sometimes on foot. The sites were arranged in four geographical clusters. This was the first such event in the history of Pakistani art. Were you anxious to sign on? Why did you do it?
I was absolutely terrified. I was terrified because there was a lot of pressure to do the first Biennale in Pakistan. There was one before in Lahore in the 80s, but there was never a second iteration, so officially it's not a Biennale. So we went first, and we had a very small budget, but had an incredible team of believers around me. There was Zirak Ahmed, Humayun Maiman, and Sarah Paganwala, who were my assistant curators. And then this process went on for more than a year and 2 years. And in the last 6 months, Zarmeena Shah came on board as a curatorial advisor. And I didn't pay any of these people, and I yelled at them almost every day without saying hello to them. They would come and say, let's start working. You do this, you do that. And they were incredible, their strength, their bravery, and their belief. And also, I have to thank the artist community. Because again, I had no budget, but I had huge dreams. So everybody stepped forth. There's a dealer hanging out somewhere here who came. Again, nobody, I'd go to them saying, Adila, you have money. I'm sorry. You pay for your own work. I can't give you anything. Of course, she said yes. And so many artists came through for me. The money I gave them was peanuts. But the work they did for me was absolutely incredible and mind-blowing. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Amin's curatorial statement was cogent, succinct. The curatorial aim of KB17 is to ponder not only our times, but also the narrative surrounding them. I do not have answers, only questions. Do we want to reinforce stereotypes of earlier centuries? Does art have to be global to be relevant in the 21st century? Can a bruised city like Karachi enter into an international discussion on art today? As a novelist, a Karachi-based novelist, these questions have particular resonance with me. When embarking on the selected works of Abdullah the Cossack, my second novel, I also had to think about how to come at the city, the sixth largest in the world, depending on how you cut the numbers, but one that was insufficiently imagined in literary discourse. Growing up, I can recall only a single novel set in Karachi, happens to be Adam Zamindar's 13th House. Now there's so many that I have lost count. And now, Karachi hosts several animate literary festivals that attract writers and audiences from Nazmabad and New York alike. Growing up in the 1980s, I also remember there was only one gallery in the city, Ali Imam's Indus Gallery, which is not to exclude Bashir Mirza's salon in Sindhi Muslim. There were a couple of critics, a handful of artists, a discreet audience. Amin cut his teeth in the Karachi of that time. The topography of the art world has changed dramatically since. I, for instance, have lost track of the galleries that dot the city. And Karachi has become the canvas for a biennale. KB17 was the culmination of an organic process that spanned almost half a century. It was not simply a matter of artwork or infrastructure, but also a matter of culture and community that support and appreciate this artistic endeavor. From sculpture to performance art, KB17 contributed to our understanding of ourselves as denizens of this city. Indeed, many, if not most, saw the city in a different light. By demanding attention, Amin has contributed to this evolution. He has my attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, H.M Naqvi. You're the sweetest boy one can chat with.